Welcome in, everybody. This is the Final Form podcast. I am your host, joined by my fellow weebs, Kyle, and making his return to the podcast is Alki. Welcome back, Alki, if you want to say hello to the people.
What's up, everybody? Sorry I've been absent, but I am back and ready to make an impression.
Alki's been a busy bee, but we're glad to have him back. Today, we are continuing our coverage of one of our favorite manhwas, now turned into anime, Solo Leveling, episode 16, I Need to Stop Faking. Very much a catalyst episode to help move the plot along further. Our boy Sung Jin Woo gets his rank reassessed, and we get to see the effect of how this news impacts the country that they live in, as the anime likes to so often now remind us. Just a very cool and chill episode compared to what we've gotten so far. Alki's taking a drink of water, but let's start with him since he's been AFK for a couple weeks. How have you been liking the season so far, and what were your thoughts on this episode?
I was just greasing the pipes, dude. Okay, so I listened to all you guys, the podcasts, since I've been absent, and I agree with everything that's been said so far in respect to just like we hit the ground running. I mean, it's almost like there was no in between. It just continued right where it left off. Anime is often like that, but I mean, in this case, you start out the season entering the Red Dungeon, and Sung Jin Woo is just taking care of business as usual, and which leads us into this episode. It kind of digresses. He kind of like just he steps back, he evaluates the situation, he realizes he needs to get reevaluated himself, and I think that sets the tone for where the rest of the story is going to go, really.
Kyle, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I was a little shocked at like when this episode ended, that it was over. It felt like while things happen, the other episodes have been so jam-packed, it felt like, that it was almost came as a shock that, let's say, for lack of a better term, not a ton happened here. Although the reevaluation is sweet, we get the confirmation of it. I love the chairman. The chairman's a beast, so it's cool for him to stepping into a bigger role in this episode. And then obviously we all love Cha, so it's nice for her to get more of like an official introduction. We saw her in season 1. It was very quick. This was a really good episode for her. The cliffhanger at the end. We obviously just want to move on to the next episode, but we're here to talk about this episode.
She is waifu number 1, dude, across all animes.
I mean, literally honestly, in my notes as waifu number 1. She's the best. But let's get into it. We'll just open up with Sung leaving the Demon Castle. He's already beaten 2 of the 3 bosses. He walks out realizing that he needs to get stronger, but he cannot do so efficiently while still being assessed as an E rank. So, of course, he needs to get reassessed. And when he does, the reassessing machine errors out, which only happens when someone's power is too high to measure, making Sung Jin Woo officially the 10th S rank hunter, again, quote unquote, from the show, from this country. Not confirmed yet. Still wild that they've been doing that, but we'll see. But either way, S rank guild leaders Beck and Choi are both also interested in the opportunity to pounce on Sung Jin Woo's announcement of being the S rank candidacy. What were your guys' thoughts on this whole scene, these interactions with the S ranks that he has here?
This seemed to be the one complaint that I saw on the internet. It's just that the actual testing scene felt like it could have been way cooler. It was like a prime example of, like, let's say what the kids are saying, aura farming, or like he could have come off way cooler than just like touching the sphere and then it says it can't be read. I mean, obviously that is what happens. So that's neither here nor there. Yeah, it's just nice to be moving into like these big dogs having larger roles in the show. We're kind of moving out of almost the prologue, if you want to call it maybe the introduction chapter, where like now he's officially an S-ranked hunter. We have the leaders of guilds that he's interacting with. He's interacting with the chairman of the Hunters Association after this, which we'll talk about. Like, this is where we really want to be in this show. So it's just nice that we're getting there.
Exactly. And that goes hand in hand with what I said to kick off this podcast episode. It's just like now he is a player, like he is a pillar of the hunter community. And okay, he did an aura farm in the office where he touched the orb, but him standing off with the Tiger Guild and just like walking right past him. I don't know what's shows how big his balls are more than that scene right there. So
Yeah. I love how he just walks by him and Choi's like, am I just getting too cocky nowadays because of my name? And he has to reassess himself. But yeah, I hate to do it. A lot of people hate when we do this too, but I just got to bring up the fact that in the manhwa, I do love the scene where there's essentially an A rank hunter who's about to make his debut, and all the paparazzi are originally there for this A rank hunter. He's going to announce what guild he gets signed to, but all the attention gets drawn away from this A rank hunter when Sung gets announced as the S rank hunter. And there's a really cool scene where Choi and Sung are kind of just talking, and all the paparazzi are just taking pictures, trying to get their questions in, and Sung just like teleports away from the situation, and even Choi is sitting there left like, holy shit, like this guy just dipped and I couldn't even tell that he left. And it kind of happens in the show here, but it's real brief. But in the manhwa, I just felt like they did it a little bit better, because it's just you see Sung there next to him, he's not there, he's behind the paparazzi. Like there's a clear shot of him like throwing his hood up behind the paparazzi, and then he completely dips, and Choi's just like, holy shit, this guy is strong as hell. But
that's when she knows. I don't get why they would remove that from the episode. It seems like a creative choice that was unnecessary.
I think it has to do with, like, again, the A rank hunter who was there, who doesn't end up becoming much of a player. There's no reason to really introduce him in the story. So I get
no point in wasting resources on
why
drawing
introduce this character when there's no point in having him around any longer. So
dare I say that happens later?
I
don't know. I only say that because like I always check on the official Reddit thread for like the episode discussion.
Okay.
And that just like wasn't in the list of
things
differences.
That were different.
Like
it might be later then. I could be misremembering. I could have swore it was here when he is.
Because I remember that scene, reading it, and then you were saying that, and I was like, oh yeah, that does sound like if it didn't happen here, I don't remember what other possible context.
Right, exactly. Because I'm pretty sure the A rank hunter, if you are not a manga reader, you can skip ahead like 10 seconds from what I'm about to say, but the A rank hunter shows up on Jeju Island too, and he's like still kind of pissed at Sung for taking all the credit of his day. Like he's a background character. But
the only thing I could think of would be like when we get because they're hinting at this episode, it's going to be a race for his signature of what guild he's going to sign for and all of that stuff. And I think maybe it'll happen in a handful of episodes, I guess would be my take. If from what I'm reading on the internet is correct, that it wasn't cut from this because it happens at a later part of the story. But I agree with you. This feels like this is where it would have happened. So now I'm interested to read to find out when it actually happens, because I'm now confused.
I want to send a disclaimer to all of our valued listeners out there. If it wasn't clear in the first season session of the formerly known as Bingetown Anime, whatever, now we're the Final Form podcast, I feel like I'm a good resource as far as the other animes that we've covered and their manga source materials. This was a manhwa, if you will, that I read like I zipped through it so fast, and the only character I cared about was really Sung Jin-woo because he's encapsulating.
Yeah.
And so I cannot tell you whether or not this is factually true or not. Whatever.
But
either way.
Yeah. After denying Choi the opportunity for conversation of getting recruited, he does see his mother briefly, where he is followed by Meet the Woo. Didn't forget this time. We got Meet the Woo here. And from the surveillance team, follows Sung to basically inform him that the chairman, Go Gun-hee, of the association would like to meet with him, and also is trying to recruit Sung Jin-woon to join the association. But there is a better pitch here in the fact that he talks about how there is a power balance between all of the guilds right now, and him joining one of the guilds essentially would tip that scale. Sung knows that the association has amazing benefits. It pretty much secures your career track right there. No one has a greater influence or greater reach, I should say, with connections in terms of people like Go Gun-hee. So a lot for Sung Jin-woo to process here, but at the end of the day, his only goal is to get stronger, and he feels like with the association, he cannot do that. So he does deny this opportunity. But Kyle, why don't you talk a little bit more about Chairman, and he is one of our favorite characters from the manhwa, absolutely. And you can obviously see that here within the first like couple minutes of meeting him and how Sung sees him and from his perspective.
Yeah, he's just a good guy. He really settles well into that super jacked, strong old guy character that is typically successful in animes. So he's cut from that same exact cloth. I love the kind of sizing up almost that Sung does of him, and we get his scouting report. Essentially, it's like this guy's over 80 and he's still an absolute savage. Like I would have like a hard time fighting him. He's pretty much like above the level that I was before I went into the Demon Castle this past time. Like we also get the fact apparently that never says this in the manhwa. This is one of the things that I read online, in that it never told us that he was the first S rank hunter in whatever country we are in. But
the country
we live in.
That's awesome that he is. I think that also speaks a lot. Like that says a lot about his character, and that he was the first S rank hunter. He could have been like, almost owned the country, you could say. Like at that point, he would have been easily the most powerful person in the country. And what does he do? He's the leader of like the official, like public serving organization for hunters. That right there says almost everything about him. He's just like a nice guy. I love when he is like talking to Sung and he realizes that Sung wants to fight, and his heart's fluttering and he's like, oh my God, like I'm trying to get out there. Like I literally was getting goosebumps when he was talking about it. It's just like so great.
He is the man. I mean, he's so earnest, genuine. He obviously has a great heart. And I look forward to his contributions to the story moving forward. And like you said, Kyle, he was the first S rank. He's been around the block. He's seen it all. He is scarred up, which is like always the coolest shit ever in any anime. And off the rip, he's just ready to. He wants to put all his money in Sung Jin-woo's, like he wants to bet all his money on him. Basically, he would do anything to get him onto his side. We'll see how it plays out.
It's cool how he first says, if only I was 20 years younger. And then he's like, nah, if only just 10 years younger. It's just, he's not that far off from his prime, but it's just the stars did not align for these two to go out into combat together, at least for this moment. And just echoing all of what you guys said, Chairman Go-Gun, he is going to be a great character going forward, and we'll have definitely some more seasons of him.
He said he was 80. Well, Sung Jin-woo surmised that he was 80, which is, that's always the best. It's like a Garp type.
Yeah, the Garp trope. It's just awesome.
Yeah,
love
totally Garp. Actually, like exactly like Garp, except a little more, less obnoxious than Garp.
And the yellow gold, the golden aura gives it away too that he's a good person. Because I think later in the episode, Cha will also have that aura. But moving on, Sung is now browsing online. The online market will assume for new gear, but does not have enough money. He considers selling the Orb of Avarice, but him doing that would also bring up questions about how an E rank got their hands on this item. And instead of creating an excuse, he ends up finding a recruiting for a mining team for the White Tiger Guild, which he decides to take up in order to use as the Hunters Guild, to use as an excuse to essentially, I guess the plan would be to do the mining and then come out of it and be like, oh, I found this Orb of Avarice, like who wants it? And that would explain how we got it. And it's just kind of funny here that Go-Gun, he assumes that he's joining for monetary purposes, and then again gets kind of shocked by the fact that he's only joining for the mining team and not for the combat team.
I do not mean to interject here, but I need
ahead.
to digress for a second. Okay, so he's joined the Hunters Guild, which is not the Hunters Association. It's a separate guild to do mining. It's confusing. And I mean, I got that. The guy with the red hair, he's not the White Tiger Guild leader. He is the Hunters Guild leader.
You said which hair?
Red hair.
The fire magic guy is the Hunters Guild, and then
and then the
Beck,
other guy
who can like actually turn into a beast. We'll say like a tiger to make the connection very easy. He is the leader of the White Tiger Guild,
and Che is in the Hunters Guild. Got it. I just wanted to make sure I have my ducks in a row there. let's continue.
Yeah, just to make it clear again for all the people, the Hunters Association is like what Kyle said, is the public serving, more government run association versus the Hunters Guild, which is just one of the guilds that are just run independently by themselves.
Yeah, I see the Hunters Association, excuse me, as the governing body over the hunters and the public too. Right?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like they
answer to
interpretation-
any like threat that is threats, like any if there's any threat to the city or civilians,
Yeah.
like they're the ones that are going to talk to reporters and shit.
I believe they talk about it in season 1, and maybe this is just my memory being bad, but I'm pretty sure like all of the gates are technically property of the Hunters Association, and then they sell them to the guilds.
No, I think that sounds
then-
right. I think the guilds
yeah, and then
literally
the guilds-
bid on it.
Yeah, the guilds don't buy the D and E rank dungeons. So that's why Sung says when he's considering the offer, where he's just like, if the Hunter Association only actively deals with the lowest ranked dungeons, and that's not going to help me level up. So like, I can't take this position because like I need to be in A rank, S rank if they show up dungeons, and so on and so forth. So
Going into the dungeon, the Hunters Guild leader Choi just easily clears the dungeon with a fire blast. I think he makes it a point to say that that one fireball that he cast literally just wiped out all of the monsters in the actual dungeon besides the boss, which is just crazy to put a perspective on his power as well. And even when he's walking out, you know, Sung is recognizing him. He's like, wow, the whole guild or the whole group is coming out unscathed. That says a lot to the leader itself. But then following him is our Bae number 1 waifu, Cha Hae-in, which, of course, it was love at first sight in the manhwa for us, of course. And especially here, how Sung's talking about her. She's got the golden aura like Go. And he makes the comment, how many people in the world have that much aura? And
She was the 9th ranked S ranked hunter to be revealed in
Right before
the
Sung.
country.
yeah, that's a good point. She was the latest before him, so now he's the newest addition. And it's funny too that you make that comparison, and I don't remember if they made it. They probably made it in the show itself, but she has the gold aura. The chairman has the gold aura, and then she compares Sung's presence to the chairman.
Yes,
where she's like feels him in the crowd, and then he, I guess, hides his aura. I guess he was getting away with it and whatever, lackadaisical, because the guild leader, Fire Mage Choi, didn't catch him in the crowd. And then he realizes, he kind of respects. He's like, "Oh damn, I didn't realize how quick she would be to recognize him in the crowd." And then obviously,
I remember reading that for the first time and being like, this chick doesn't really even need to appear much more in the manhwa for me to just already be in love with her. Just the fact that she's strong, and just, I think in this point in the manhwa too, they even go a step further and say, some people say that she herself could be the leader of the Hunters Guild, but she just chooses to kind of sit backseat. Like some people think that she might even be stronger than Choi is. What I think in the manhwa
I remember them having that conversation, and it might even been too like about like, why isn't she the leader of her own guild?
Right. Yeah,
like,
she could have easily started her own, but she joined.
Choi, the Fire Mage, I mean, his nickname is literally humanity's greatest or strongest soldier. I mean, that is as high as it gets. That's like the greatest compliment you could get. So I mean, this is a big guild, and you could see also why, if she's maybe the number 2, imagine they add Sung, and then that guild is just OP. Like, you can see where the concern is from the chairman's perspective of like, okay, brother, don't go crazy and just basically make this one guild stronger than the government of this entire country. Like, we can't be having that.
Right.
I have no comments other than them. I am so fucking blue balled by that ending.
Yeah, right.
Jesus Christ.
We get to Sung and the mining team entering to clear the dungeon of the resources. Sung is flexing his muscles a little bit. Everyone's just so impressed with how great of a worker he is. No surprise there. And while everyone goes off
for us.
Yeah, a little fan service, a lot of back muscles there. I'm sure the ladies love that. We loved it as well.
Yeah. Thanks for choosing
clarifying.
This is my favorite part.
I like how they even say to the guys that are watching, they're like, "Whoa, he's strong."
I love cartoon lats.
Yeah, we do. Aoki loves them. But as everyone goes off to lunch, Sung decides to take a little sneak peek at the boss up ahead, does recognize that the boss is stronger than the ones that he fought at the Demon Castle. And he's going to take a little poke, but who else is there to blue ball him other than Cha Hae-in? And that is where our episode ends. I don't know if you guys have any comments on that particular scene to wrap us up, but we do have one final scene to cover.
Yeah, I just like this kind of depiction of him as like a little bit almost like a beast, where he like really just wants to get in there. You know, he has this like kind of bloodthirstiness to him where like he just wants to get in there and test out his skill against the dungeon boss.
Right.
And then the other comment, obviously, like Aoki mentioned, it sucks the way that this cliffhanger ends, but we do get the important character trait about Cha, and that she has a very sensitive smell. So she's always using the handkerchief that they're showing us. The guild leader, Choi, actually even mentions it too. He makes a comment about it. So that is just another thing we're learning about her.
She just can't resist Sung Jin-woo's must.
Yeah, but also, yeah, what's she doing so deep in the dungeon there too?
She's digging.
She's drawn. Yeah, she's drawn to him.
Last scene we will cover, it's going to be brief. I don't know if we'll have much to say about it, but we have Hwang Dong-soo awaking from his defeat, doubles down on the fact that Sung's quote-unquote father is still a monster, that he's not human, and also believes that if he were to just acquire a powerful artifact, he could also potentially take him down. So Hwang is now on the lookout for Sung's father, and we get an introduction here to artifacts, which are kind of just gear that we've already experienced before. It's what Sung was looking for on the market, just a place online where people can sell things. They boost, certain powers and abilities, things like that.
It's interesting to get the confirmation because I don't remember how much they might have talked about it in season 1. So maybe it's either the confirmation or the reintroduction of that concept, though, that it's like, I think it could be easy for people to assume that only Sung has access to that stuff through like the marketplace of the system, through whatever his power is. But in reality, you can just go on the internet and buy necklaces, tiaras, cloaks.
Although I will say, I think the trait of being able to like hide your gear, is a trait specific to him, I will say.
That's fair.
It's so the coolest part about it.
Yeah,
he's wearing all this armor and it's just invisible.
Yeah, I think that's the look.
That is sick. I wouldn't want to look like I'm wearing all this fucking armor either. I just want to look like I don't even care. I just fucking shit up with nothing on.
Jinho would disagree. Jinho loves.
Jinho wants the flat. He wants.
He
would if he could. It would have Gucci all over it. Like
he deserves
Gucci breastplate.
My comment on the Hwang Dong-suk stuff is that it just feels good to look at him in the hospital bed, just beat up. I like we get a little bit of the flashback stuff of Sung's potential father, let's say, because they are being weird about it. And he's saying, like, stay away from my family. And I think he implies something that, like, even death wouldn't be enough, or like whatever. He implies something around the fact that like death isn't an end to like his suffering or like whatever it may be. So that's interesting, as we know that Sung's power of the necromancy, the arise, and all that stuff. So like, how much does his dad know about things? Like, where is that comment coming from? So
it's funny.
Good stuff. There's a lot of good seeds that get planted across this episode. It's just one that we're just trying to get past, though, to be honest.
Yeah, they mentioned explicitly in this episode that there are 10 S ranks in the country ever. And when Hwang Dae-suk faced off against maybe Sung Jin's dad, they mentioned like it's amazing what kind of damage can be done when 2 S level beings collide. So it's like if they know Sung Jin-woo's lineage and if this guy's a human or not, like wouldn't they? This guy's obviously S rank. Like, they're clearly planting some seeds and forcing the audience to ask some questions here. And he's really cool. I would like to see him actually fight, not just like flex his aura.
Yeah,
that's a good reminder too of thinking of like the S rank hunters that we know from the country being Sung. We have Cha Hae-in, the dancer. We have Choi, the fire mage. We have Beck, who is the beast, who's the leader of the White Tiger Guild. We have the chairman, is 5. We have Huang Dong-suk, because we know he's from this country but is in America, so that gets us to 6. They mentioned the healer who's retired, that
The S rank.
that Jin Ho's dad is trying to recruit to be the leader of the guild. He's kind of racing his son there. That gets us to 7, and then the other 3.
The
I
3
think,
are
just
kind of
put
question marks, right?
Yeah. We also haven't met any of the other guilds, from what I remember.
Besides
like
the White Tiger Guild.
White Tiger
Yeah, we're
Guild,
really
Hunters
interacting with
Guild.
2 guilds. There's 3 more.
Yes.
Logic would lead us to think that those are the last 3 S-rank
Yes.
hunters, but I guess we'll see when things all actually come to fruition.
That's something I really enjoy about the anime. I guess I know this is the 4th episode in this season, so I'm a little late into analyzing this aspect of it since you guys have covered some. But like in the manhwa, like I said, I zipped through it. But not only that, there's just like a lot to uncover, and I think the translations were poor, so it wasn't. It didn't eloquently, it didn't elaborate sort of the world the way I think some other animes and mangas do. It's really nice seeing it and getting the explanations through the anime, right?
Yeah,
It's like it's definitely straightens it out, and that always happens when you watch an anime like Attack on Titan versus the manga, Demon Slayer, whatever. But especially
in Korean manhwas, when
in this case, I think is really
because at least there's a lot more focus on like Japanese mangas and people, who subscribe to Shonen Jump weekly in Japan who rush to get those translations out, but it's a little less, organized when it comes to manhwas. So when we're reading things like Solo Leveling that are originated in Korea and getting translated for the first time, there are a lot of translations issues versus what we're used to, I guess, in normal translations.
you can't really, I don't even know for sure what the actual deal is, but to me, I think it was obvious while reading the source material that the translations were a little finicky sometimes.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to. We're going to finish up the in terms of arcs and everything, we have to finish up this one here, see this A rank boss supposedly, still have the ants in the background, the S rank hunters, we have to see who is left. But lots to look forward to. That's going to be it for today's episode coverage of Solo Leveling. If you like what you heard, give Bingetown TV a follow on all of our socials on X, Insta, YouTube, all that good stuff. Be sure to join our Discord, which is linked in our episode description, and chat with us about everything and anything that you're watching with us or are currently watching and want us to know about. We're going to also ask for you to check out our newest Bingetown TV feeds called The Core, which covers all of the newest and hottest Apple TV shows, which is currently covering Severance, as well as Binge Empire, which is currently covering Dexter. And then the last one is, Kyle, you got to piece me in here. It's Unreal, correct? The Unreal podcast. Yes, for all of your reality TV coverage, they're currently covering The Traitors.
That's a great name.
Yeah, Unreal Podcast.
That's great. Final Form Podcast is also a great name. Guess who? Guess whose brainchild that is? It's mine.
The guy who hasn't been here for the last 4 episodes.
We let you have 3 weeks of PTO.
That's what I earned.
Yeah, you have no more sick days for you. But lastly, for all of our podcast catalog, check out bingetowntv.com, a nice organized alphabetical podcast catalog for you guys to check out there of every show that we've ever covered. Once again, we are the Final Form Podcast, and thank you so much for listening.
Go Bears.
Are we not doing
I thought we were going to do that together.